STEP, the sixth term examination paper. It is the final boss you have to fight to gain entrance to study maths at Cambridge, one of the most prestigious courses in the world. Each year, around 2,000 aspiring mathematicians apply, out of which only around the top 500 performers at interview will receive an offer to take STEP. And finally, only about 50% of these offer holders will defeat the final boss, an exam which is widely regarded as one of the most challenging pre-university assessments in the world. Go back 3 years, and this exam was giving a young honest Torus nightmares on a daily basis. Somehow I beat the boss, but it wasn't pretty. Now that I've spent 3 years in the pressure cooker that is Cambridge University, being pushed to my limits on a daily basis, I want to go back and find out just exactly what is it that makes STEP so hard. How can I do on it now? Have I really developed as a mathematician? And do I think that STEP does the job of selecting the students that will actually succeed on the Cambridge course? Well, there's only one way to find out. Okay, very quickly, if you don't know how this works, you have 3 hours, there are 12 questions on the paper, but you can only get credit for your best 6 questions, and each question carries 20 marks, so the max possible score is 120. It's funny, as soon as I opened the paper, I remembered the dread I felt opening the real exam. It's this strange cocktail of the pressure of there being so much on the line, mixed with just uncertainty, because for a lot of people, it's the first exam where they can't solve the questions as soon as they read them. But this quickly subsided, and very soon, I felt this strong urge that I had something to prove to my past self. So I buried my head and got to work. After doing 6 problems, I looked up, and I was surprised to see that just a little over 2 hours had passed. But now it was time to face the music. How did I do? Well, despite completely butchering a partial fraction decomposition twice, I really felt that I've matured a lot as a mathematician. But what does this even mean? I mean, it's not like any of the content I've learnt in the last 3 years was useful here. This brings me on to the answer of the first question I wanted to know. What exactly is it that makes STEP so hard? What's become very clear to me now, having gone back to revisit STEP 3 years later, is that the difficulty of STEP is because of the following reason. You have to develop your own ideas in the exam. When you're trying to create a new idea in the exam, sure, it's not new to the whole world, but it is new to you. This is exactly the position that research mathematicians are in. The big difference for me now though, 3 years later, is that there were still many points in the exam where I couldn't see the solution straight away, but I was much more comfortable in this state of not knowing, and exploring where my intuition pulled me in the hope of developing the right idea. This really is its own skill, and this is what I think Cambridge does very well, because every day you're confronted with questions that look like this, and exam questions that look like this. You're constantly working on the boundary of your ability, in a state of not knowing, trying to grab onto specks of light and find your way to understanding. So passing STEP is proof that you've developed this skill sufficiently, so that when the first year starts at Cambridge, you likely won't drown in the material that gets thrown at you. The big takeaway from all of this, however, is that this skill is something that you can really improve. You just have to consistently work on problems that are a little bit beyond you, exploring any small hint of an idea you might have. But when I was revising for STEP, I certainly fell into the trap of practicing problems that I knew there would be a good chance of me solving, because this is comfortable, right? But I really wish that I had seen this video back then. Ultimately, STEP is a measure of the perseverance you need to succeed as a mathematician.